Eala bows to Mirra Andreeva at Macau Tennis Masters. Manila, Philippines. Eala wrapped up her 2025 campaign with a straight-sets loss to Mirra Andreeva in women's singles action at the Macau Tennis Masters on Sunday. The Filipina tennis ace bowed to the world number 9 Russian player, 6-4, 6-2, marking Eala's last match of her breakthrough 2025 season. Andreeva recovered in time for the singles showdown after being under the weather just 24 hours earlier. Eala and Andreeva were originally slated to face each other twice over the weekend, once in women's singles and again in mixed doubles, but Andreeva was forced to withdraw from the doubles match Saturday due to illness. As a result, Eala and her partner, China's Jerry Sham, instead faced Spain's Alejandro Davidovich Fokina and China's Yibing Wu, absorbing a 7-5, 7-6-1 loss. The defeats, however, will not affect Eala's world ranking as the Macau Masters is an exhibition event and not part of the WTA calendar. The lights of the Macau Tennis Masters glowed like a second sunset, spilling gold across the court as the final rally faded into silence. The ball had kissed the net, hesitated, just long enough to steal a breath from the crowd, and then tipped gently onto Eala's side. Game. Set. Match. For a heartbeat, the world stood still. Eala did not fall. She did not sigh. She did not look away. Instead, she straightened, adjusted her grip on the racket that had carried her through years of early mornings and quiet sacrifices, and walked toward the net. Across from her stood Mirra Andreeva, composed, focused, still buzzing with the electricity of youth and momentum. The scoreboard favored Mirra, but the moment belonged to both. When Eala reached the net, she paused. Then she bowed. It was not deep or theatrical. It was simple, intentional, a gesture that carried more weight than applause. A bow not of defeat, but of respect. The crowd murmured, unsure at first how to respond. Tennis is a sport of handshakes and nods, not bows. But as Mirra smiled and bowed back, something softened in the air. Applause rose, not loud, not explosive, but warm, like understanding. This was not just a match. It was a conversation. 2 journeys, 1 court. Eala had learned early that tennis was more than power and precision. Growing up far from the traditional centers of the sport, she carried with her the weight of expectations. Not just her own, but her country's. Every swing was a statement, I belong here. She had traveled continents chasing improvement, losing more than she won, learning patience the hard way. Losses had taught her what victories never could. How to listen, how to adapt, how to bow without breaking. Mirra Andreeva, on the other hand, moved like a comet, young, fearless, already brushing against greatness. Her game was bold, her confidence unfiltered. She played not as someone waiting for permission, but as someone who assumed the future was already hers. On paper, the match looked like contrast. On court, it looked like balance. Eala countered Mirra's fire with calm. Mirra answered Eala's control with fearless acceleration. Each rally stretched longer, deeper, until the crowd forgot to blink. And when it ended, it felt less like an ending and more like a passing of energy. The meaning of the bow. The bow was not rehearsed. It came from instinct. In that brief bend of the spine, Eala acknowledged more than the scoreline. She acknowledged effort meeting effort, youth meeting experience, ambition meeting humility. She bowed to Mirra's excellence, but also to the sport itself. It was a reminder that tennis, for all its rankings and rivalries, is still a shared language. Mirra's return bow said just as much. It said, I see you. It said, I understand what it took for you to stand here. It said, this win is not theft, it is inheritance. For a young athlete rising fast, it was a moment of grace. For a seasoned fighter still climbing, it was a moment of dignity. Beyond winning and losing. Later, the match would be reduced to statistics. A headline, a line in a draw sheet, but the bow would linger. Young players watching from the stands, or from screens thousands of miles away, would remember it. They would learn that respect is not weakness, that acknowledgement is not surrender. In a sport that often celebrates dominance, the bow celebrated connection. Eala walked off the court with her head high. The loss stung, yes, but it did not hollow her. She had not been erased. She had been part of something meaningful. Mirra left with another win, but also with a lesson. Greatness is not just how you strike the ball, but how you meet your opponent when the noise fades. Under the same lights. The Macau lights dimmed as the crowd dispersed, but the court still held echoes of shoes sliding, of racket striking, of applause that understood more than it cheered. Two players had stood there. Two paths had crossed. And in one quiet bow, tennis remembered itself, not as a battle, but as a dialogue.